you very much. Great to be here. Great to be, face to face in a physical setup and online as well. To talk about this human-centric topic, and I have to say, it feels a little bit weird to be on stage talking about human centricity, because it's been told before, as humans, developing solutions or developing technologies or developing products that are serving humans, we should be making sure that every step of the way we remain human-centric, right? But it's not always the case, and we need to force ourselves or to discipline ourselves to make sure that the decisions that we are making are indeed human-centric. So, for me, it's a fascinating topic. It's something that we are focusing on a lot of our research, both from a customer experience perspective as well employee experience perspective, and beyond at Forrester. But to talk more deeply about this topic, this fascinating topic, I would like to welcome the panel, the panelists on stage. Kang Nguyen Trio, who is the Group Chief Technology Architect at Accor. Thank you so much for joining. And please give him a round of applause, please. Juliana Chua, who is Senior Director, Global Digital Acceleration at Essilor-Luxottica. Thank you, Juliana. We have Vicky Abhishek, Vice President, Technology Services, Asia Pacific at Johnson & Johnson. Dev Menon, Head of Sales, APJ at Sycor. And last but by no means least, Saranjit Singh, Vice President, Telco and Utilities at Blue Prism. Thank you so much for joining. Great. So, really, everybody has a mic? Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks. Really exciting to be with all of you today. We have a great panel of different end users across industries, hospitality, healthcare, consumer products, but also some technology vendors, highly recognized technology vendors as well. So I want to start by defining what human centricity is. And maybe we can start with Kang. What is human centricity for you, and why is that important at Accor?
Yes, so hi everybody, and very happy to be part on this panel indeed, because as we move faster and faster into, I think, the digital world, this topic of human centricity, I think it touches societal questions as well. In Accor, obviously, I think hospitality, human centricity is at the heart of the hospitality, because obviously, as a guest, when you go to hotels, what you want to experience is not only great locations, but also the experience that you can have interacting with people. And so human centricity, I would say, has been, in the DNA of hospitality from the start. What we are already seeing is that, and especially with COVID-19, there are things changing both from a guest and an employee's perspective. From a guest perspective, with all the safe distancing measures that we've known for the past 2 years, hospitality is going into much faster contactless services. So either online check-in, either a door that you can open with your smartphone and the like. So in a way, less, I would say, human interactions possibly with the staff. And the second thing is that as business reopens, hospitality is experiencing a challenge from an employee perspective around what is called the Great Resignation, because a lot of people have chosen during that term to maybe change career and go into jobs that are less tedious. And I think in the discussion we can see, we'll be able to touch on this point and how technology can help overcoming these challenges.
Yeah, I like how we're starting to define the main stakeholders here, right? The customer, of course, but the employee and the employee experience as well. Juliana, your digital transformation or the digital transformation that you're leading at EssilorLuxottica also aims at transforming the experience of customers and employees. Can you share a little bit about what is human centricity for you?
I think so. For us, human centricity becomes a building better experience for our customers. So once we build a better experience for our customer, we want to eventually see how should the digital ecosystem be for them. And with building a digital ecosystem, understanding the business, we actually make them a little bit more sticky to our business as well. Because leveraging on this digital ecosystem means that the customer are getting better efficiency and also very effective in the business that they are doing with us as well.
Got it. Vicky, what about, so you're leading technology services across Asia Pacific for, I think you're supporting 25,000 employees across the region. So very important role from a technology perspective. What does human centricity mean for you and your team?
Sure. Thanks, Frederic. So, I mean, I represent Johnson & Johnson. This is one of the world's largest healthcare company, most diversified as well. And we are in the business of changing the human health trajectory for all the population across the world. Right. In APAC, if I look at it, we have about 51% of our global population lives in Asia Pacific, and more than almost close to 4 billion people, right, getting to 3.84 billion people. And we have more than 50% of the elderly population is actually in Asia Pac. So over 1 billion people, elderly folks in APAC, which also gives the burden of the disease. We have an unfair share of a burden of disease from a global perspective, which is almost 2/3 of the global burden of disease actually in APAC, which means that many more patients and that many more people to take care of. So with that context, I think J&J in the region is really looking at investing and building a quality healthcare experience for all our patients and consumers. We have 3 large lines of business. One is obviously pharmaceutical, which I think all of you are aware, investing in molecular research, coming up with vaccines, including the COVID vaccine most recently. And then we have medtech business, which is actually connected with pre and post, hospitalization, surgery, orthopedic replacements like knee joints, hip joints, brands like Ethicon, like Mentor. We have a lot of big brands in that space. And then we have consumer health business, which is focused on our personal care and vision care and our well-being, including skincare products, which a lot of us are very familiar with. So across all these divisions, we focus on human healthcare and well-being. My team specifically, I lead the technology services team for APAC, of course, based out of here in Singapore, and we are responsible for all infrastructure, digital application, and data services for all the sectors which I just shared earlier across all our business units. So we get to kind of see the end-to-end value chain across these sectors and kind of work with our business partners in each of these segments to improve the trajectory for human healthcare.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dev, about Sidecore, which is a CRM and marketing automation, I think. It's content marketing automation. I should know that. What does it mean for you and your clients to be human-centric?
Thanks, Frederic. I think for me, for us, actually, human centricity is really the heart of what we do. Because if you look at Sidecore, the first thing you see on our website is how do you connect humans into a connected world, right? If you look at where we have gone from industry 1.0 to 4.0 and beyond, you notice that we embrace a lot of different types of technology tools, right? We have the big data, we have analytics, we spoke about today. We have things like AI, we have things like machine learning, then we go into IoT, Internet of Things, and so on. But then all these different enablers or tech enablers, as we call it, it's all about how people make decisions quickly, And how do you then basically make it personalized for these people so that these decisions can then affect and bring success to the business, right? And that's not only for the external consumers and clients of our Sitecore, it's also for internal employees as well. So you have the EX and the CX, right? So I guess, long story short, I think that to bring the amount of content, to bring that personalization to different groups of people across different dimensions, whether they are from different countries, different geos, different cultural contexts, different languages, how do you bring these people together? And you saw that in the last 2 years with COVID and all, right? People are always going to see how, people from different parts of the world can come together, make decisions, and those decisions can then improve the business as a whole. So that's what Sitecore does. It brings people together, and we call it human-centric because all the different technology in the world does not substitute human beings, right? They're the ones who make the decisions finally, and that's what we want to do, personalize it so that they can make those decisions quick, and that's what we do at Sitecore.
Interesting. Saranjit, Blue Prism is a robotic process automation, so you're all about automating processes, maybe removing the human as part of these processes as well. So what's the, I'm challenging you a little bit on that.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Yeah, no, very interesting thoughts, Freddie. So, because we have this excellent opportunity to work with so many customers around the world, so we get kind of first-hand experience how we can help with organizations like yourself here in the audience that to improve the human-centric part of it. So when we look at it, what we have seen, what we have experienced is human-centric means to people that it should provide personal, intelligent, trusted, and inclusive services. That's what human-centric services is all about. And when we talk about all these things we want to provide, what goes on in an organization? I mean, in an organization, we care about two things, our customers and our own employees. That's the key goal. And to do that, if we just summarize and look at it in a holistically, simplistic way, so what are the things we need to do to make our organization or provide a human-centric environment? So there are things like it starts with communication. How do we communicate with each other? How do we, among ourselves, among machines, among customers, among other ecosystem? So communication, how does it starts with communication. Then how do we organize ourselves? How do we collate information? And then the next part comes is how do we manipulate that information? So you look at it, everybody, I just spoke about, say, individual, trusted, all of that. So when I'm talking about manipulate information, that means that what is it that I can leverage that information for? What is it for me in this one? How can I provide it to my staff, my employees, my customers? And then what we do next is we monitor that how are we going? How is it helping? What are the changes we need to bring in? Then the last step is the action. And action means our policies, our governance models, our technologies, all of that we bring into that. And then we provide this holistic, simple, human-centric environment. I mean, a story comes to my mind when this COVID started, because I work across the board. So a lot of telcos, energy companies, financial institutions like banks, people who are, organizations who are helping their customers, let's say through call centers. They all had to, basically they turned upside down. There are people sitting in Philippines, India, not everybody is working from home ready. So what do you do? As we were working with one of our customers, Westpac in Australia. So overnight, basically you have to double down your workforce. So even if you hire the same number of people, how do you train them for the same model? Everybody's talking the same language, behaving the same way. And on the other side, whom you are serving is also a human. So all this came together, and then what they did was, why I picked up Westpac is they were actually on this journey to make it simplistic for themselves, for their organization, as well as the customers. So we were working with them on digital worker, supporting the human worker, not the other way around. It was supporting, working hand in hand with the human worker. So we just started the journey before that. And then within a year, they went up to 1,300 digital workers. And they had about 240 robots. So interesting enough, you might laugh at it, that Those 240 robots are in their contacts directory. They in fact named them. They named them like Pikachu and Dave and Mary and all of that. They ran a competition for that. And in fact, in their employee directory, they have all of those robots, and they go through their performance review as well at the end of the year. Like how are they performing? So this is interesting. That's what the whole human centricity is all
Do they get
about.
any bonus or?
They get the prize for naming that. Yes. Yeah. So it's like very interesting journey that we are going through. And if you think about it, how does this digital worker or whatever you want to call them, robots, how do they come together? Basically, human wants to do where I can add value. Everybody is like that, whether it's at home, whether it's in your personal life or professional life. You want to do something where you can make a difference and add value. And that's where we are encouraging and we are facilitating organizations.
Yeah, I found the humanization of robots absolutely, fascinating from a, human perspective. It's a very human habit, right? To try and humanize products and things and robots. I want to come back to, I think all of you mentioned how human centricity is about customers, but also about employees, right? And you mentioned the great resignation being an issue for a lot of people, a lot of organizations, because we need to attract, retain our staff in this talent scarce environment. One thing that from a human centricity perspective, we've been talking about for years now is customer experience, right? We've been talking about design thinking, about empathy mapping, about customer journey mapping. I'm wondering if you have, in all these tools, in order to bring the perception of the customer, as we develop new product and solution, I'm wondering if there's some of these tools, some of these lessons learned, we can bring in to also work on improving the employee experience. Is that something that you've been seeing in your work? Maybe Kong, if you want to start.
Yes, so maybe let me start with a question I would like to ask every one of us in the room. Raise your hand if today you think that your employee experience is as good as what you can have as a customer experience. Who is working in a company?
That's a great one.
Who thinks that? So you see, no one, and not even me actually. But but that's interesting because about 1 month ago I was having lunch with a friend who just joined Google Cloud. Was telling me, Kong, it's amazing. Internally, all the tools in Google Cloud, they are as good as what you can see when you use Google or Gmail or whatever. Reason why is that in Google, they are building everything internally. So all their internal tools, even you are booking a flight or anything else, you use some tools that UX designers in Google have designed for the corporate. But I think it's an exception. And we see that in the room, no one of us has this level. I think that, so it doesn't mean that we should just despair and say, if we are not in Google, we will never have a good employee experience. What typically in accord with the topic of great resignation that we are seeing, hospitality is a tough work when you are on the front line working, doing housekeeping, doing, for example, working in restaurants where you have to do shift from at lunchtime or at dinner time and so forth. And so what we are looking at today is typically we are creating this year a department which is called Tech for Accor Teams, meaning technology for Accor people and not only for the guests. And in this department, we are going to try to start to look at the topic of what we call digital workplace or the employee experience. Obviously, we won't have the same capability as Google. And I think in lots of companies, you are not developing internal tools yourself. You are using Office 365, Slack, whatever, etc. But at the same time, you also need to rethink how people actually are engaging in the way they work. The ways of working, I think with COVID-19 has also change a lot. And that's all this part that we are currently looking at. And I think by being intentional, meaning you create a dedicated department which already will have the focus to start thinking, okay, how should we rethink in our capacity? I think that's already a good start.
Excellent. And they're bringing in some of the things that your customer experience team might be using as well.
Yes, definitely.
Juliana, do you have also a dedicated EX team?
We don't have a dedicated EX team. So EssilorLuxottica has been around, probably older than me, must be. So we have about 180,000 employees. If you are wearing glasses, the lens is probably from Essilor. If you are wearing the frames, the frame is probably from Luxottica as well. So I think across the world, where we operate in more than 100 countries, we do advocate that happy employees equals to happy customer experience. But because the company is of a certain age, I think we didn't start digital, right? So when you didn't start digital, I think there are a lot of legacy systems. It is natural for us to actually follow through. What is the best customer experience that we want to provide? And therefore, it was always being a customer-first approach. With the customer-first approach, we have to talk to all the local entities. So being a global digital acceleration team, a lot of the rollout, the execution is done by on the ground, right? But when it comes to the group looking at how do we improve the entire customer experience, we have to eventually look at one group solution that we could roll out so as to maximize the efficiency of how do we do the execution as well. And when it comes to rolling out, we do understand that when it comes to the countries, every country has a different kind of customization we have to take note of. They have different kind of data privacy laws that we will also have to take note of. So regrettably, I think it does start with the customer first approach, but happy employees equals happy customer. So we do bring in our employees to do a think tank solution as well. Whenever we are rolling out a digital product, there are opportunities for employees to group together with the digital team. Think about how do we actually want to tweak the group solution, not to evolutionize it, but to tweak it such that it's actually sophisticated sufficiently for the local rollout.
Just to add to what Juliana just mentioned, I think it's a very valid point. Yeah. So Sidecore has been in the CX business for almost 20 years now. And we have heard many companies across different industries talking about how to make the customer experience better for their customers, right? And they talk about bringing tools and technology which then connects into different backend systems to make that such that it's so transparent and seamless when customers engage with you on different platforms. They know exactly what they want. We give them the requirement which they need, which is personalized to their profiles, and then they transact with you, right? So this is what businesses do. But a lot of these businesses also forget that the employees are your internal customers in a way, right? Because giving them what they need, being personalized to them with the same set of tools which we use in the CX world, we can bring that back into the EX world, right? And in Sidecore, we do that, right? We bring in the same type of tools we have into the EX world and give the employees the same type of focus we give our customers so that they can find what they need. It's personalized to different cultures, different regions where they come from, so that they make decisions quickly and then the customers benefit anyway out of that, right? So I guess it's not a topic about CX versus EX in a lot of ways. It's CX equals to EX. And then how do you then float that up to a human-centric experience, which is like what we call HCX, right? So I guess these are the type of concepts we should be, actually looking at for a lot of businesses.
Got it. So, I mean, first of all, I really like what my fellow panelists have said and talked about. Employees are actually your first brand ambassadors. So whatever products, whatever services, you're doing as a company, your employees are the ones who take them forward and kind of bring them to the market. So it's very important to treat them at par, if not even more than our customers and internal stakeholders, and bring the right tools and experiences. But I also want to take one step back and talk about purpose and mission for an organization. I think that's where the employee connectivity and employee commitment and motivation is actually rooted in, right? We talk about great resignation. We talk about people leaving, changing jobs and moving away. In the last couple of years, all of us have gone through some sort of reflection, self-reflection, thinking about what is our purpose? Why are we doing this? Are we in the right place? Are we in the, doing things which matter, right? In the context of the pandemic which we have been living through, right? But if the companies with very strong purpose and are able to create and motivate the employees and build that experience connected to them, their deep-rooted vision, and allow them to connect at a very, very deep level, and be more effective. And then those employees in turn can go out to the market and become kind of the brand ambassadors, right? Now, talking about employee experience or customer experience, for me, it's actually human experience at the end of the day, right? And how we kind of bring them and make them more homogeneous, and to your point, aligned to the local laws and privacies. And it's at the end of the day, a huge amount of data play there. And if we have the right amount of data and are we able to connect those experiences, are we able to build that deeper empathy about our products and services, about our customers and patients in our case, that is what drives employee experience, as well as, builds the foundation for customer experience.
Absolutely. So I completely agree with you that, both customers and employees are becoming what we call values motivated, right? So increasingly choosing the brands that they want to buy from because they align to their values. And the same is happening with employees as well. So I think it's a really good point. Anybody else who has seen a shift maybe towards embracing or redefining perhaps values at the corporate level and trying to embed these values in the technology, in the processes, or the tools that are available to customers? Or
I'm happy to share our experiences. See, what we say is like it's a power of two. Power of two means, let's say, for example, I know our friends, when we finish this session, they're going to go for lunch. I think I can tell what each one of them is going to do when they move out of this room. I'm a fortune teller. No, I'm joking. I'm not a fortune teller. But the thing is, when we look through the organization, we know what is going to happen. So for example, when you move out of this room for lunch, what are you going to do? There is only limited ways that how you are going to communicate. You are going to either go to talk to someone else or one of us, I wish, or you are going to talk to your own phone, do some work on the phone. Straight away the hand goes in there, phone comes out, get into it. And that means you might do some work, or you might pass on some instructions on your phone to, say, an email or some payment or whatever that may be to some other machine. So there's a machine-to-machine talking after that, right? Or it's like just talking to yourself, talking to the third person, talking to a machine, or machine talking to a machine. So this is what happens in an enterprise as well. There's no rocket science. It's a science that we deal with every day, day in, day out. So we spoke excellent things about that customer experience equal to employee experience, and we want to make it more human-centric. So what we are seeing, what we are experiencing is that only about 25% of the organizations are getting there on that journey where they know that, okay, it feels like it will be successful. But why is that only 25%? Why not 100%? So what it comes down to is this journey. What happens on that journey? But do I want to jump onto the journey first and then see what comes across and we will manage as we go through? Or should we be in a position to decide, okay, this is the journey I want to go to? And that would be my request to my friends sitting here in the room, that you go onto the journey with an operating model. Already agreed, already understood operating model. Operating model means that you have a vision, your own vision, not some software, not some tool. And that operating model supports your vision. And then that includes how your people work, how you want your people to experience this using this model. So your vision, your people, your governance, and your technology. All these four things needs to come together to achieve what you really want to make it as a human-centric organization. And intentionally, I use the word technology at the end. The reason being, if there is somebody talking to you saying, oh, you have to go on this 6 to 12 months of technology upgrade or swap journey, come and talk to us. You don't have to do that, okay? You can start achieving benefits in 1 week or 2 weeks or few weeks. So the vision model is very important.
I'll just like to add one practical example about automation. And this is something I know most of us have kind of started to travel again and able to get back on planes and check into the hotels. I realize in the last few months of, kind of resume of travels, especially, for the hotel and hospitality industry. One of the pet problems I used to at least face before pandemic, when you used to travel all the time, is you lose your room keys, right? And most of the hotel chains are now starting to use mobile as a key card. And it's a kind of an example of automation where you are looking at the existing platforms. Everybody's carrying mobile. Your mobile becomes the key card for your room, and you don't have to carry additional device, additional piece of hardware with you to authenticate yourself to your own room, right? And it's just a very simple automation or incremental innovation which that has done, but it's completely changed the user experience around it. Now we are all witnessed all the touchless, contactless, process changes which were actually driven from a health and wellness perspective, but now it's becoming a norm across all other aspects as well. Yeah. I see that as a great example where we can do things leveraging the current and this sort of new technology. NFC has been around for a long time, and it's just to apply it in a context where you can associate it to a hotel guest, and at the time of check-in, you can enable it on your mobile app and just use your mobile phone to get in and out of your hotel rooms. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. I wanted to shift gears a little bit. Giron, you mentioned that one of the metrics that you were tracking was from an efficiency perspective, driving, and that's a metric that as technology leaders we tend to use on a regular basis, right? It's like, how can we use technology in order to, reduce the cost of doing something, right? And therefore being more efficient. But then that can contradict or be counterproductive in a way to some of the goals that we have from a human centricity perspective. So from a metrics perspective, how do you see the need to maybe, cost management is still extremely important, of course, but maybe having a different approach. I really enjoyed the example that the speaker from RGE mentioned earlier, which, in the business case making, the human dimension was removed. Well, and he was quick to note that it was possible because of, maybe resources based in India or in China. But I thought it was a really good example of how maybe to de-emphasize this importance of efficiency and looking at what I would call effectiveness, right? So making sure that you achieve some of the outcomes that you're after in terms of customer experience, in terms of employee experience. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, on this one, I think that it's true that organizations have been led a lot by KPI. How do you improve lead time? How do you achieve the target? What I think one of the most powerful approach and tools, and actually we are currently rolling that in Accortech for now. It's called OKR, so Objective and Key Results. There is a very good book if you haven't read it, which is called Measure What Matters. Very different from an approach based only on KPI because it's really outcome driven, where you start to think about not what do you want to optimize, but what goal do you want to achieve as a group, and how can you put in place alignment. And I think that in terms of employee experience, that could be probably the foundation of a lot of things happening, because then you will derive the processes, the tools, etc. But already giving to people the meaning of why they are doing what they are doing.
Excellent. Juliana?
So I think efficiency and effectiveness are two very different things, right? So for efficiency, we are looking at you're probably looking at more operation-oriented, doing things with minimum wastage, making things faster, making things more nimble as well. But when it comes to effectiveness, you're looking more on a strategy approach, where the strategy that you are rolling out, is it successful? How could one person do it different from another person as well? So these two, effectiveness and efficiency, to me are two very different topics. And I think at kind of a management level, you have to be quite aligned as to what is the objective that you want the team to achieve. With the objective that you want the team to achieve, it's easier and clearer for the team to navigate across all these challenges as well. So for example, when we are looking into going paperless, you are probably looking at a little bit more of efficiency. But as a strategy, what do you get out of the whole paperless approach? So as a management team, you need to align what is the strategy that you are putting across, and careful not to actually gray out the two different objectives as well.
And are you using OKRs like Hong in terms of aligning the business strategy to the objectives and the key results and KPIs of the teams across the organization?
Definitely. I think where digital transformation or acceleration comes into place, I always do think that it starts with the top down. The top needs to know what they want to achieve. It is very, very challenging to be on a bottom-up approach. Because to be on a bottom-up approach, a lot of people are asking everybody else to do different things, right? But when it's a top-down approach, there are a few key objectives that you want to achieve. With these key objectives, do you want to reduce costs? Do you want to make it more effective? Or do you want to actually run the organization better? And with digitalization, I think we heard from many other key speakers, it usually takes a different side of budget, right, to achieve. But with this budget set aside, you could see the ROI in years to come, right? It doesn't need to be like 10 years. As you accelerate the digital transformation, the results could be achieved within 2-3 years. And this is what we at EssilorLuxottica did. We believe that digital transformation is something that we want to achieve. And how do we actually accelerate this throughout the entire global countries as well? So for example, when we brought out a B2B portal, when we managed to lift even the digital ordering globally by 10 points, 10% per se. So when receiving like more than 10 million orders a year, just achieving it by 10 points actually means that it will reduce the amount of work that your CS needs to do, your sales rep needs to do, so that they could actually focus on delivering better customer experience by not doing manual processes as well. So this is a buy-in. And I think in order to get the buy-in, you do have to actually deliver the entire vision. Where does the organization is going? Because at the start of it, the uplift is very difficult. The uplift means that everyone needs to go through the business processes again and actually see where could we actually optimize.
Excellent. So I'm gonna, get closer to the questions because my eyesight is getting worse by the day at my old age. So I just wanted to maybe open up for some of the questions from the audience. One is about data privacy. And we've seen, from a regulatory perspective, data privacy is a very sensitive topic, right? But it's also, as we discussed, a very important topic. Well, data is in order to get closer to what customers and employee needs and want. So how do you reconcile the two, right? Do you think data collection through human touchpoints will become more difficult in improving customer experience?
I can take this one. I don't think it's going to make it more difficult, because today I think there are solutions where you are not actually interested so much into the person itself, but more into patterns that you want to be able to do personalization. And so today you have solutions of anonymization, tokenization, which enable us actually to still be quite refined in terms of personalization. But what I believe is going to be more difficult in terms of data collection today is more regulation that we see popping up worldwide, where you have to keep data within the country. You cannot take out some data, and it's becoming very, I would say, diverse, and which makes it more difficult, I think, in terms of data governance to handle the whole thing globally for a global company.
Add one thing on this. Data privacy is obviously a sensitive topic, and it's been sensitive for a while, right? But at the same time, it goes around with the governance, right? How are we collecting the data? Where are we collecting the data? What are the purpose of collecting the data? Are we using the data which we have collected for the same purpose? Technology is a big part of it, which can actually help democratize a lot of that. And I had Denedo was presenting data virtualization, which actually allows a lot of those possibilities from a technology standpoint. I think data privacy is also about, kind of, again, being back to human-centric and people-centric. Are we treating the information which you collected, are we using it for the same purpose or different purpose, right? And then compliance to the local standards or local government and regulatory standards which are set by governments in different parts of the world, right? So it's a combination of both of that. Technology can actually help bridge that gap and help us still achieve value out of aggregated data collections or running science experiments and coming up with new innovative solutions, especially in our case, drugs and surgical treatments, without compromising the individual, data regarding one single patient or a single, community or anything like that. So that's possible.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I think for myself, for example, right, I deal with a lot of areas where we actually provide e-commerce platforms to customers. And that's a good place to look at this, because in the e-commerce world, we're always trying to get people to buy and consume the services offered by a business, right? How fast can you do that? How fast can you increase conversion rates? That means that someone has to share an email or add something to a wish list, or click something which, he shares, and then the commerce site takes that. And then after a couple of times, they know who you are when you come in. They build a profile of you. Then you basically show you what you need, right? This is what has been done traditionally for a long time. But if you look at it today, right, it's always about how much do I want to share with you in order to get the benefits of buying something I need within 5 clicks on your website. You always think about that, right? Sitecore has gone into an area where we don't even need that. So for example, if you're purely an anonymous user, we try to understand as much without trying to compromise you sharing data with us. That means, right, we just use AI-enabled technology tools, which allows you to go in to a website as an anonymous user, not sharing anything, but within a few clicks, I will show you what you need, right? So I guess like what my fellow speakers have been talking about, right? It's about how much information you want to share with the business which you're dealing with. Is that safe, which is always in your mind? But then how is the data being used, right? That's extremely important, right? As long as the business is transparent about how your data can be used and how much can you take that back once you've given it, I think that helps a lot. But on top of that, I think, like what I just mentioned to you, it's about not collecting any data from the users so they don't have that worry, but then still trying to understand what they need and then offer that to them in the shortest time possible. So that's actually possible today in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I don't think customers are not willing to share the data, right? As long as they're getting, the value, so that there's the value equation that needs to be respected there, right? But coming back to these values motivated consumers, one of the top values that consumers care about in the region here in Southeast Asia is about respecting data privacy, right? So this is definitely something that we need to be careful about. Just wanted to maybe have another last question from the audience around the business case implementing automation, but that is also focusing on being human-centric. So I think this one is directed to you.
Sure. Yeah, no, very interesting. Thank you. This question comes up so often, I mean, everywhere, kind of, where do I start? What do I do? How do I know that I'm doing the right thing or not? So I would say, as an example, try it yourself. Call your own company if they are into customer service environment, and see what happens, what goes through the call. Do they ask you one by one, give me your name, give me your ID, give me your date of birth, what was the last amount you paid? Or as compared to what we are doing, where this whole thing is going is, hello, Mr. Singh, I know in your area, your bank portal is down and we are working on it and we'll be with you within half an hour or somebody will call you. This is the customer experience. This is the employee experience. Both sides are better. Both sides are winning. So, and this is what we do day in, day out. So the thing is that people can talk about automation. Everybody is doing automation. Who is not doing it? We have been doing it for the last 50 years, automation. But there is a difference. What I want to share with you today is, as an example, let's say we all go to MRT today, we scan our card, we go in, get onto a destination, put the car in, and we are out. But today's automation, What we are working on, what we are working with every customer today is the difference is we want to provide those solutions when you know what happens in the peak hours, why there are 10 people standing in front of every entrance to the train, or what happens if something goes wrong on the track or with the train and then suddenly the whole system jams up. So when you are designing, my request, when you are designing your, within that operating model, your processes, if we keep working the way we have been working sequentially in the past, whatever technology you use, there will be minor improvements. But if you are innovative, you are creative, and the word for that one is how many things you can do simultaneously. The more things you can do simultaneously, then the real customer experience and employee experience benefits you will achieve. And you will see them within weeks. You don't have to wait 6 months to see those results.
That's an interesting metric. Thanks for sharing. So one last question, because I think we need to wrap up. We have all work to do to become more human-centric, right, as organizations. So I wanted to ask you, each of you, if you could share one thing that you plan on doing in the next day, weeks, months, in order for your organization, for your team, for your leadership to be more customer-centric. What would that thing be? Juliana, you want to start?
So I think for me is to build better products. So as a digital team, I think many of you will build better products as well. And I think when it comes to building products, we want products that could scale. So this scaling is also very important to us because different customers have different kind of requirements. So where we build products, we actually build it into a modular stage, enable that it could scale. And I think with better products, better scalability, you meet the company's requirement of making your budget more efficient. And also you meet the customer experience that you are providing them with something that they could take their business further as well.
Thanks, Kong.
Yes, on my side, it's about reinventing the hotelier jobs regarding the great resignation I was mentioning. So today, typically, we are starting with the Singapore Tourism Board and acceleration program because housekeeping, we don't have enough people to do housekeeping, and because it's a difficult job. And we are looking at how we can implement technologies to reinvent that part of the work in hotels so that it attracts more people because people will do their work differently tomorrow thanks to technology.
Thank you, Vicky.
No different from what we have been doing for 135 years. Basically focus on deep customer and patient empathy, understand their needs and their well-being needs better, and come up with solutions to help them have a healthy and disease-free lifestyle as much as possible.
Thank you.
I think for my organization, basically will be, we've been doing customer experience for so many years now, 20 years, right? I think it's more about verticalizing some of those experiences we have across different industries, understanding a little bit better on how we can personalize this experience for our customers, deeper into the industries they function on. But then how then to take that and put it back into the employee side of things as well, where we can have the same tools or tool sets which we use today to then replicate the success we have with our customers as well, right? So that our employees can be successful, and then that makes our customers successful as well in the process. So I guess that's something we want to look into.
Sounds it.
Yeah, and I like the good thoughts, guys. Thank you for sharing those. Yeah, so it's like, okay, I'll just be very quick. I would suggest build a team within and provide an environment within your organization that lets humans do what they like to do, what they feel happy with. And they will be always, motivated to continue to do more and better. I give you an example from when the COVID started in NUHS here in Singapore. COVID registration process used to take 2 minutes when it started. Some of you might know. But then we worked through that process and then later on modified it to within weeks to 30 seconds. And it's all measured goals. And where does the rest of the 1.5 minutes goes back to the people. So they get to do what they really like to do rather than doing those mundane tasks. Another example comes to my mind is there is a very old mutual fund, 176 years old, Trans Africa, they work. So when they went through this process and finished it, we gave them 22 million minutes back to that organization. And imagine how much more work those people, what is that employee results into employee experience and customer experience by having that much time in their hand instead of just doing the mundane tasks.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, team, for sharing your insights and your experience. Please help me thank the panelists for a great panel discussion.
Thank you.